Right now, we'll take in a little Old West style scenery with our GMC Yukon. Cactus and sagebrush, outlaws and cowboys, and miners and boomtowns. We headed for southern Arizona with our GMC to check out some of the sights made famous in Western movies and TV shows. The saguaro cactus has pretty much become a symbol of the American Southwest because that's the only place you'll find it. At Saguaro National Park, you'll find plenty of great examples of the famous plant. The cactus has been protected here since 1933, and the landscape looks pretty much like it did in the days of the Wild West. The park, which is just outside of Tucson, offers scenic drives as well as numerous hiking trails to get you closer to nature. Just don't get too close. Walking all those trails makes you think of every bad Western movie and cartoon joke about being stuck by cactus thorns. Be very careful, especially if you're traveling with young children. Saguaro cactus generally grows to about 30 to 40 feet tall, and some can be more than 50 feet. With the strange human and animal-like shapes they often have, it's easy to see why the Old West Desert was the birthplace of so many eerie legends. The lifespan of the cactus averages 175 to 200 years, so many of the ones here are the very same ones the early settlers saw. The area in and around the park is also home to many different kinds of wildlife that thrive in the desert, and depending on the time of day and season of the year, you just might see some. And that includes rattlesnakes, so watch where you step. Because of the scenery, this is a popular area for movie making, and just outside the park, you can visit Old Tucson Studios. The studio was built in 1939 by Columbia Pictures for the movie Arizona, and is the location for many Western movies and television shows. Speaking of movies and TV, the name Tombstone is pretty familiar. About 70 miles southeast of Tucson, you'll find that infamous place. The site of the famous shootout at the OK Corral lives on as a popular tourist attraction where you can walk the same streets as Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, and the Clanton Gang. Even though automobiles have replaced horses as the primary mode of travel, and gift shops and museums are the biggest businesses in town, you'll still feel ghosts of the town's wild past. You'll find mock gunfights on the streets, and you can stand on some of the exact spots made famous in history books and in the movies. The town Too Tough to Die is also the location of what's believed to be the first cemetery to be known as Boot Hill. Overlooking the surrounding desert, Boot Hill contains about 250 marked graves from Tombstone's colorful past. About 30 miles south from Tombstone is the town of Bisbee. Bisbee's heyday was in the late 1800s and early 1900s, when it was the biggest cosmopolitan center between St. Louis and San Francisco. Mining was the attraction in Bisbee, and today you can take tours of both underground and open-pit copper mines that helped bring the town into being. More than $2 billion in copper and other minerals have been mined in the Bisbee area. Today, artists have replaced miners as the town's primary residence, and there are numerous art galleries and shops in Bisbee, with many of the original buildings of the downtown area remaining in use. In the area north of Tucson, we found remains from much farther back in history. The ruins at Casa Grande National Monument date back to before the year 1350. This four-story structure is part of a walled village that was built by the Hohokam people who inhabited the area in ancient times. It was abandoned around 1450 and then rediscovered and named by new settlers in 1694. It's pretty hard to believe that a building made of mud could last for over 650 years, but I guess they knew how to make pretty good mud in those days. There's plenty of history to relive, sights to see, and unpaved roads to explore in southern Arizona. Our GMC Yukon was a perfect companion, too. It stayed cool, comfortable, and sure-footed over the hot, dusty roads and trails we encountered. Quite a contrast to the kind of transportation earlier settlers of the region had to deal with. The 21st century isn't a bad deal at all.